Hi everybody, I'm Dan Alexander. I'm here today with Adam Nahas, and he is here with the Artisan Alley. We're going to be talking to him today a little bit about being a Bloomington artist and how he facilitates his business. And his business is actually, why don't you tell us?
Sure, yeah, so I run two things. Cyclops Studios is my custom fabrication, metalworking, like project management business. I've done a lot of public sculptures and stuff with that. And then Artisan Alley, I'm an employee of. I'm the executive director, and we focus on finding like studios for artists. We help facilitate studio spaces, community spaces, community resources for those artists, and act as an incubation business for artists in Bloomington.
Nice. How long have you been doing it?
The very first iteration of the Arts Collective was called the Blank Canvas, and it started in like 2009. So what is that, like 2022? So 13 years ago about. And then in 2011, we started the Trained Eye Arts Center, which is the entity that the Artisan Alley is now. We actually started as a Trained Eye Arts Center in the same business entity. It's the same business essentially now, but we changed our name in 2017 to Artisan Alley when I moved back to Bloomington, and we kind of got it going again. And then in 2019, we got our nonprofit status, and so we've been operating as Artisan Alley since 2017.
So when you went to nonprofit, was that why you had to change the branding?
No, we changed the branding because the Trained Eye Arts Center kind of implied an arts center. I think inherently people think of visual arts, and we always wanted to be a location where any maker or any person that does something creative would feel welcome to come to. And there's a certain amount of like snootiness that comes with like, oh, I'm in my arts center, you know. Right. So we felt like Artisan Alley was a little bit more casual. Artisan just means by hand, so really anybody that's doing something creative is encompassed in. And now we have people that aren't just in the visual arts realm. We have performance and music. There's technical arts, digital arts. We've had some martial artists. We've had some people in the beauty and cosmetic industry help us out or like and get involved. So really we wanted to have a much more wider scope, and so that was another reason why we changed the name. But a lot of it too was a little bit of a restructuring. Originally it was more of a democracy, and then as we developed more of a board of directors, we had to have a hierarchy of like how our policies and our bylaws would actually carry into effect. So all of that kind of happened around the same time. It's like kind of a business structure, change the name, you know, kind of figured everything would change at that point.
Nice, nice. So tell us a little bit about yourself as a kid. Like, did you do art as a kid?
Yeah, my mom was really into like the visual arts. I remember she, you know, was drawing portraits of me as a kid with crayons, and they'd come out just amazing, you know, and I'm like, how does someone, you know, create a realistic portrait of a kid in crayon, you know? Yeah. And I just, you know, it always connected with me kind of from that point on. But growing up, fine arts wasn't always my go-to. I know in like junior high and high school, I was doing a lot more performance-based art, theater, improv comedy, singing, musicals, things of that nature. So I was a lot more in the spotlight in like junior high and high school. Right. And then once I got into college, I got into IU's Jacobs School thinking, hey, I'm going to be a singer or a performer of some types. But very quickly kind of shifted back into, you know, the skill set of stagecraft, theater, backstage, you know, stage building, prop making, mold making, things like that. And then towards the end of my time at IU, I really fully switched back into visual arts, focusing on sculpture and metals. And so I've always had this like...
So your metalworking came out of theater?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I never thought I would be a metal worker, but I always was interested in like special effects, so I was making molds to make like, you know, music videos that needed like severed heads or like prosthetics for horror films. Right. And so like the mold making is really kind of what led me into that. But towards the end of college, I was starting to get into jewelry classes. And so with my background in like clay sculpture and mold making, it lended itself really well to foundry arts, which foundry arts, you're not actually like, a lot of people think you're like manipulating metal directly. It's a process, it's a mold making process that molten metal flows into something, and then you're still doing like finishing processes, but it's not smithing work. You know, blacksmithing is like you're actually shaping it while it's hot.
I get to see the process every day because like my day job.
Do that.
I mean, I work in a foundry myself.
So you know, the foundry was really I was really interested in that because it's not a job. I mean, you know, if you're making the same thing over and over, yeah, it can get kind of tedious. But we were doing these small additions for artists that were doing like 12 of or 20 of or something like that. So you know, every mold is different. Obviously, we weren't doing any type of mass production, and I started to learn more about the different processes that arts will go through, because we were getting artists that were woodworkers that wanted to cast in aluminum, or we would have ceramicists that would love to see it in bronze, or you know, we'd get these you know, these people that created awards and they wanted it in centrifuge cast gold, or you know, a higher precious metal. So I got to learn a lot about different mediums through the artists, but really I was taking kind of their designs or their maquettes or miniatures and pushing them through the foundry process and learning about that side of it. And then over years of doing it, I think I worked at the foundry like 10 years, I just learned so much more about the woodworking side, project management, helping with installation, restoration, you know, just everything. And it's gotten me to, you know, make a lot of pieces all over the world, really. But you know, and then more recently, you know, after doing it for like 10 years, I finally got a couple of pieces in Bloomington, in my hometown. So that was really fun. But yeah, it's been a journey for sure.
Nice. So the Cyclops Studios, that's basically that's your personal business. That's the one that you do a lot of that work with that.
So when I switched into the visual arts school, I was interning at the foundry at that point, you know, kind of late in college, and that was my first job after college. But the guy that owned the process was like, you know, I can't make you my employee. I only hire independent contractors, so you need to create an entity on your own. So it was like 2005, I created Cyclops Studios so I could start interning and working with him. And luckily he gave me a job right afterwards. But yeah, like Cyclops Studios was primarily, I was working primarily for him and taking on some side jobs. And then it was like in, what would it have been, like 2012 or 13 that the foundry closed. Or no, wait, it would have been 10 years after. So it would have been 2014 or 2015. That the foundry closed, and then I started just keeping, you know, just to keep it going. I just started to, you know, market myself as an independent contractor who can do like repairs and fix-it works. But
so at this point in time, this is when you started realizing, oh, I can do this on my own. Like this is a full-time. This could be a full-time.
Yeah, exactly. I started doing it out on my own. I started renting out studio space. I needed space for myself, and I started filling up a location and doing work. And then you know, it was like during like the, I forget which administration it was, but we had a lot of work in the pipeline, and then it kind of went away. And then I started to find out that there were a ton of artists in Bloomington that also needed affordable studio space. So Cyclops Studios kind of gave birth to Artisan Alley in a way. And I know I mentioned Artisan Alley is now, you know, it's not owned by me, but at one point it was. But I've given that business back. To be a nonprofit, you can't have a single owner. So when we got our nonprofit status, I basically sold it off for $1 to the organization, and then they could kind of keep it going.
So it's more or less a co-op at this point?
Yeah, it's definitely a co-op at this point. You know, our members make up our board. Our board helps direct me as to what improvements I need to make or what I need to work on, and then I work for the organization. But yeah, at one point I owned it, and I was the guy that was dealing with all the paperwork, and all the risk was on me. And now we've got a collective of group. I think we've got about 60 members right now, maybe more, maybe less. We just signed like 3 more in the last couple of weeks, so I'm not sure what our numbers are, but definitely a cooperative mindset. But there's definitely a big distinction between Cyclops, the, you know, self-owned metalworking business, and Artisan Alley, like the community co-work nonprofit collective type of thing, artist collective.
Could you tell us a little bit about like the day-to-day adversities of running a business like something like this?
Well, not every artist has the same medium, and so everybody has kind of their own needs, and they need, You know, some people need natural light, some people need, you know, pure silence. And so when you create these spaces that are designed to have so many different types of artists like in the same space at the same time kind of thing, it can definitely be disruptive to the process. So we all have to work really hard to communicate more effectively with each other, making sure we all know kind of what's happening on a day-to-day. And things can change at the last minute, just like everybody knows, like things can cancel, things can get pushed back. So, you know, keeping everybody connected and communicating, I think, is one of the biggest challenges. But then on top of that, trying to make sure that Artisan Alley is diverse enough to really, you know, be honest, saying that we're a multidisciplinary arts cooperative, that we're able to offer something to everybody. And in the beginning, that was always the vision, but we just had a gallery. So it's like, are we really helping digital artists? Are we really helping industrial artists? No, we're helping two-dimensional artists. You know, if they don't need a studio, all we really can offer is a place to show it. Yeah. But, you know, over the years, we've developed a classroom, we've developed an industrial space, we've developed digital tools, a venue, and we're still growing it, you know. So as we, you know, as I work with more and more artists, I think the challenge is to constantly keep listening and developing something new, so we don't stagnate, and that we're continually evolving with the needs of the artists in the community. So, yeah.
What projects are you working on currently, and what do you guys have planned for 2023?
So 2023, we actually just got a couple of grants. One of the biggest ones is through the Bloomington Digital Equity Grant, which is during COVID, we pushed really hard to get a lot of equipment for audio video needs so that artists could get their stuff instead of in front of a crowd, because we couldn't really do crowd stuff, to get it out in front of a digital audience. So what we found out is, even though we had this equipment, none of it really knows how to use a nice camera or like sound equipment or a PA system. So this spring, 2023, we want to teach some free classes that is everywhere from like super novice, like I don't know how to use Microsoft Word or Google Docs, all the way into Excel, maybe 3D programming, graphic designing, video editing. We'd love to get doing some 3D printing classes. There's some lighting classes we want to do, but really just kind of like fill out a lot of our members and the public's understanding on some of the more technical things that go into either starting a business or running, you know, having an art form. So that's a class we're pretty excited about. We are promoting our new classroom and venue a lot, so we're trying to connect with more teachers to have regular daytime programming, and, you know, offering more classes for kids, classes for adults, drawing, painting, things like that. And then with our venue, we're trying to connect with musicians now, which is one of the biggest new developments that we've got right now, is dancers, performers, poets, musicians. We now have a stage, we have lights, we have a PA system. So we're trying to let people know that even though, you know, COVID's over, there's a lot of venues in Bloomington, but they're very hard to access. The price range is really, you know, astronomical, and a lot of them are set up to do like weddings or bigger events type of things. So it's really hard for like a small independent musician or a small independent dancer to find an affordable rehearsal space or a micro venue for a private event, a birthday party, or an art class or something like that. So we're trying to fill that little niche that's like the first step that you take before getting into the bigger venues. But those are the primary efforts we're going to be working on for 2023, as well as some bigger fundraising efforts to try to get some more staff and to grow the business eventually into maybe our own building, but that's years away probably, to own our own space. But
so what kind of advice can you give to like our viewer, like who might be an artist who might be outgrowing like their living room, or say like their bedroom, or, you know, their dining room, where they're creating their art? Like maybe they're just getting to the point where they're like, maybe I'd like to find a studio.
Yeah, if space is a big limitation, I definitely say, you know, reach out to us. We have spaces. I think the most affordable space we have, if you want it to be all your own, is like $140 a month. But we have a monster studio, like for instance, like Friendly Beast Studio. They've got it's a couple of $1,000 because it's a couple thousand square feet. So I would say, you know, like take steps as you go. But I know when I worked at home, I was really unproductive. I was distracted constantly by like dishes and laundry and visitors, and I really couldn't get work done. So having a separate place to work, even if it's a room in your house, that is really helpful. So if you're on your couch, get into it, like make at least a room all your own. And then if you feel like, you know, I want to connect with a bigger art collective, I have a little bit of money to spend, I think it would be valuable to make those connections or have like a business front or a location, a brick and mortar, then take that step, you know.
And I know a lot of artists, like you can get easily distracted at home. It happens with people who work from home.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, art is really not much different. And if you can, you know, if you have the discipline, I mean, I guess it will work out great for, you know, an artist to have their own home studio.
Right, right.
But I've done both, and I seem to work well with being at home now. Yeah. But at the time, I did it out of necessity because I was physically outgrowing. All my art stuff was kind of overflowing into my living space. So I ended up getting a studio, and then from there, consolidated my apartment and my studio into the purchase of a home, which also had a studio.
Yeah, and that's great. And I think
that's the natural
progression. Yeah, I think I definitely know a lot of artists who started with the home thing. They wanted to meet more people. They wanted to grow their business. They worked with us. They kind of grew their business to a point, started making more money, and they were like, you know, it's definitely financially better if I buy a home or buy something with a big garage that's separate and then run everything into there. But, you know, especially if you're in a studio apartment and you're struggling to make rent, it doesn't make sense to go spend more money on another physical space, you know, try to make do with what you've got. But we also have membership tiers where you don't get your own studio, but we have a lot of shared space. So if you just need a place to go to, you know, teach a class or do a photo shoot or build something for a week or something, we can do that too.
It's also an opportunity for local artists to get involved with art education and maybe teach a class in something that they might know that they're specialized in.
Exactly, and the price range for that is like below $140, and we have like a volunteer membership too, or if you volunteer some time, you can get that space too. So we do have some like free options. You know, there's a little time and, you know, sweat equity that goes into it.
And that was something that we didn't really talk about too much either. It's like, you know, when you get involved in a co-op, then you have opportunities not just to produce your art, but also to teach it.
Exactly. And then, you know, the other thing I was going to say is, like, you know, it was actually just, there was this feasibility survey that the city of Bloomington just did that talked about what Bloomington really needs to thrive. And so they reached out to students, they reached out to locals to try to figure out what everybody wanted. And they're trying to keep students and professionals in Bloomington. And they're like, well, how do we do that? Well, one of the biggest pieces of feedback they got back was that commercial space in Bloomington is really expensive. And so, and then they also named Artisan Alley as one of the best models for providing affordable space and to act as an incubator for emerging, you know, creative businesses or creative artists. So we're really proud to kind of like get that title, but at the same point, like our studios most of the time are full. I mean, we get little studios that pop up and not every studio fits the need of an artist. So we're always looking to grow and develop new spaces so that everybody has a few different choices to pick from. But yeah, I mean, things fill up fast, and we're hoping to work with the city to develop more spaces that are affordable if they can help offset like some of our overhead to keep it affordable. But we found success in renting large amounts of square footage to get the per unit cost down, and then break everything down and do like short-term and long-term leases to make it affordable for everybody. But then, you know, we just need like 80% of the space to be full in order for us to be sustainable. And so that's what we do. We'll take over a space, we fill it up. We take over another space, we fill it up. But it's been like every year for the last 4 years, we've developed a new location out of a need to have more studio spaces. So that is the backbone of what I'd say Artisan Alley offers. But all the other programs and stuff kind of fill us out a little bit more. But yeah.
So where can the viewer get a hold of you, and where can they find Artisan Alley and Cyclops?
Yeah, so website, social media, call, email, all that kind of stuff. So cyclops-studios.com for the metalworking side. Our new website for Artisan Alley is artisanalley.com. You can find out more about the services, what we offer, who's involved, you know, all that kind of stuff on the website. If you don't want to connect directly and just kind of want to see art, that's where I'd say like social media, Instagram is. If you just kind of want to pop in every once in a while and see what we're doing. Artisan Alley 812 is our Instagram and Facebook handles. And then I'm not really active on social media with Cyclops Studios because most of what I do there is very like private commissions. I do body castings, or I'll do like personal homes and stuff like that. So I don't put out pictures of people's bodies or homes and stuff like that. So I'm not producing a lot of content for social media for Cyclops. It's a very commissionable type business. But yeah.
Okay, we'll make sure that we put that in the description below. Adam, thank you for joining us today.
No problem.
And
happy to help.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's good to see you again. Always
always
have a
pleasure.
good time talking with you. So, thanks for tuning into the Artist Grapevine. Be sure to like and subscribe, and have a great holiday. We're so close to Christmas. Hope you guys are having a really safe and enjoyable holiday season. Keep creating, and we'll see you later.